Good morning and welcome to Legal Tech Live. I am your host today, Nick Rishwain, and our co-host Ivan Reiklin, my co-host Ivan Reiklin, may or may not be with us. Our regular audience will know that Ivan is constantly in transit, serving our country. We wish him well with that and hope that he's able to make it. Thank you for joining us for episode 26. This is 26th. We've been going for about 2 years now, but the nice thing about live video is that if somebody cancels, we just don't have a show that day. So that's why you have 2 years and only 26 episodes. So we're working to get a little bit more consistency and reliability. So with us today is Derek Teller. He's the Director of Sales, and he wears a couple other hats in the company for DocketBird. And DocketBird was founded by a patent litigator and software developer who graduated from Yale Law School and clerked for the U.S. District Court and the U.S. Court of Appeals. I actually clerked for the California 3rd District Court of Appeals. That is Todd Kennedy. Todd couldn't be with us today. Derek Teller, Director of Sales, is here with us, reached out, wanted to tell us about the exciting things that are happening at DocketBird. Derek, welcome. Thanks for being here today.
Hey, Nick. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be on the show. And I did a search. We just got our Twitter account going recently. And first thing I was like, well, hashtag legal tech. And you came right up. You're at the top of the Twitter SEO. So that's
excellent. Excellent. That's what we like to hear. And, it's funny that Twitter has been not the only source for our guests, but it has been a significant source for guests on the show over the last couple of years, because kind of Twitter goes hand in hand with those who are in legal technology or in technology general, right? It may not have the following that something like Facebook does, but for those who are a little bit more techie, we seem to find ourselves hanging out on Twitter and finding information on Twitter. I'm assuming you feel the same way about that.
Yeah. I use it a lot just to get news and sports info and all sorts of stuff. I love Twitter. So.
Yeah. It's been a great resource for the show. So you were tell us, just jump right in here on, give us a little background about what DocketBird is and what it does. Well, let's stop there. Give us a little background about you and your experience, and then maybe shift into what DocketBird does.
Yeah, so about 20 years ago, I was just getting out of high school, and I kind of decided to forego college and the unusual route. And the dot-com boom was just sort of kicking off late 90s, and I'm 17 years old, just went right into computers, worked for a number of big corporations, Dell Computers, DirecTV, stuff like that. For about a decade, I did tech. And then I was in school part-time, but then I decided to go back to school full-time. Really sort of fell in love with the humanities, philosophy. I was a double major in philosophy and history, went to a really good liberal arts college, really just sort of had a complete life change from tech to academia. And I was like, this is it. I'm going to be a philosophy professor, right? And, and there was some disillusionment after I spoke with my advisors, and a couple of years went by, and, got to pay the bills. So start up here in Portland, Oregon, called Selly. We do text messaging for activism and for schools. So I worked there for the last 7 years. And then about a year ago, I came on to DocketBird, another startup here in town. And so my background is basically pretty varied, but academia mixed with tech, and now I'm kind of diving into the legal world as well. So
right. Are you getting any feedback from me? Are you?
No.
Okay, good. No echo. No, you sound good. So when you got into the legal tech, that was about a year ago, you said, and were you beta testing DocketBird at that point?
It was actually, I was in Manhattan, doing interviews with other companies, and in the startup sort of tech sector. My other area of specialty is education technology, so I was probably going to go to a company in that field, and I saw a LinkedIn job ad, and it was very brief, and sort of vague. And I was like, well, what's this DocketBird? And hopped on a Skype call with the founders, and there's about 60 candidates, and I was one of the two they selected. And it was totally just a random. Like, I never saw myself going into legal tech. Obviously I had to do a bunch of homework after that, sort of learn how the court systems work and whatnot. But I quickly found that it was actually right up my alley. Having a sort of liberal arts background, it's all about quality, right, and analysis and judgment and stuff. So I really found that pretty interesting right off the bat. But yeah, so I came on as sort of and junior sales, maybe because I wasn't really, legal tech wasn't my specialty, but quickly got pace, and now basically I run the sales wing of the company and the business development. And
excellent. Yeah. And tell us about DocketBird. What does DocketBird do for? Is it specific to patent attorneys? Is it?
No, it's actually a very general tool. So, are you familiar with PACER?
Yeah.
Yeah,
very familiar.
Most legal people are. Basically, PACER is sort of a legacy system the government runs that you can check your court electronic court records, for federal cases. Problem is it's a very cumbersome way to sort of tool. It just takes a lot of time. The search functions don't work that well. So the founder of DocketBird, a couple of years ago, he had a really big patent case and hundreds of docket entries, and basically he just built his own little tool that would sort of virtual OCR all his filings from PACER, sort of like a plugin, right? And he just uses for his own case work. And then that little search sort of indexing tool developed into sort of our first big feature. And then since then, what DocketBird basically is it's a way to automate the routine tasks that are related to PACER. So to give you a really simple example that's very common is most law firms, when the court sends them a free look filing, like a preview of the filing, somebody at the firm, usually an assistant, they have to manually download, rename, save that file to their case management or their cloud drive. So, it doesn't sound like a lot of work, but it takes a few minutes every filing.
Right.
And it's just this sort of routine work that DocketBird automates. So rather than having your assistant spend time downloading and renaming stuff, you can automate that whole process using our service. And then also you can automate the indexing of your filings, so you can do like a full text search across a case. Yeah, and then all sorts of stuff like that. Like you can set up, one of the simple automations we do is automate PACER searches for you. So a lot of firms, for their lead generation, they'll have somebody at the firm, every day check PACER for new patent cases or new insurance cases or whatever their litigation type is. And that takes time and it's expensive too. Those searches add up. So we can automate that whole process. You can basically say, hey, DocketBird, tell me when a new filing happens in this district with this keyword in it, right? Or tell me when a new patent case in Northern California district. You can set up all these sort of case alerts or triggers, and then it's pretty hands-off after that. We will do, DocketBird will handle all the searching and the retrieving of the files and notifications and stuff.
Excellent. So who is your targeted, you're in sales, who is DocketBird, who's your targeted market here? Is it small solo practitioners? Is it big law? Is it the medium-sized firms? Is it just anybody practicing at the federal level? Tell me a little bit more about that.
Yeah. So just to be clear, it is just federal district courts right now. We're going to add the appellate courts and then eventually the big state courts. That's a complete programmatic nightmare. The state courts, there's just a lot of standardization, but that's on our roadmap. Hopefully later this year. But basically right now it's just for federal cases. So our main our ideal profile user is probably like a bankruptcy attorney, or anybody that's working on contingency, where time is of essence, right? So because really what it boils down to is the automation just saves you time, saves your assistant's time,
Absolutely.
it's a solo practice, saves the attorney time, right? So
and it saves the client as well, because if it's saving the attorney time, then that's less billing on that particular case, on that particular matter. So that actually saves the client in the long run.
Right. And as you know, there's a lot of backlash right now about the billable hours, and clients want more for their dollar. They want to be able to quantify and predict costs and stuff. So yeah, the automation, I think it's good in that sense that it saves, it's win-win, right?
Right.
We can get into that later. I was just doing some research, and there's a big sort of fear that, the robot lawyers are that's the end of automation. That'll be the end of all. And I don't look at it that way. I think the short answer is there's law has a lot of routine tasks.
That's right.
The ideal image of the lawyer is, on a desk full of papers, sifting, staying up all night, just studying all these documents and stuff. So automation really just frees up that routine work, and so you can actually apply it to more meaningful stuff like the actual case analysis,
right? Strategy, tactics, things like that. Yeah, that seems to. The big fear with everything automation or robotics and AI, the big fear is that the replacement. But I don't know that we're not at that level yet, based on my reading.
Very far off. Yeah.
Far off from that. This is
few decades.
Newer decades from that, and it's never going to do away with those highly tailored, needs that an attorney will fill. It's going to address the routine tasks, the standardized tasks, and that helps them to spend time more on the creative tasks, the strategy, the tactic, the client engagement, client relations, things like that. I think those skills are going to become more important for an attorney.
Yeah, exactly.
So tell me, so you guys started, you came on a year ago. DocketBird has been, are you now selling the service to attorneys at this point? How long has that been going on?
So about 2 years ago, when Todd, the CEO, built that search indexing tool, at that time, it was really just like a private beta. He works for a firm in San Francisco, so he kind of beta tested it with them and some of the other Bay Area firms that he knew, and that went on for about a year. And it wasn't until last April that we actually went public with and made it, you could actually buy the product. So basically, it's a free service. Everybody gets a free 30 days.
Okay.
And then it's $25 a month, flat fee. So it's very affordable. And the argument there is that, hey, if your assistant saves an hour a month, that pays for the cost right there. Obviously, you're going to save more than that as well. But so it's very self-serve service. We actually automate almost everything we can in our company, except for the human element like this, right? The face-to-face. So we want to run a very lean startup, and everything we've built has been based on feedback from paralegals, from assistants, from attorneys, because those are the people that they're on the ground, they're actually doing the work. My background's in tech, right? So I don't know the average pain points for a paralegal's workflow, right? So a lot of the last year has really been about listening to our users and figuring out their pain points, and then asking them, what could we automate that would save you time, right? That's basically how we run the startup here, and it's nice because it's low overhead in that sense. We're not dumping a ton of money into Facebook ads,
right,
or like a sales team of 40 people or anything. We automate it as much as possible, our marketing and sales and support and all that. So.
Excellent. And it looks like, I was looking at, there is a free version of DocketBird. There's a boutique version, which allows you to have 10 plus users. And that would be, I'm sorry, there's three different pricing. And one is the free, then there's the $25 per month. And I need to clarify that that's per user. And then there's the Elite, which is $30 a month per user. But that's only a $5 difference from the boutique. It's not like it jumps from 25 to now we're at $100 a month. You have, what is that offer, the Elite offer, that the boutique does not?
Yeah. We're gonna just consolidate the Elite in the boutique.
Okay.
We had the Elite was for big firms. They wanted to have their own sort of branded white label version.
Okay.
On their intranet or whatever. We're actually just going to have the boutique and the free.
Okay.
Well, you check back in a couple of weeks. It'll be a much more simpler. But
Okay.
basically, how we bill is per attorney. So, and to go back to your question a few minutes ago, we sell this to solo practices, to mid-sized firms, and even really big firms, where there's more than a few hundred lawyers, right? So it's kind of all over the map, but
Okay.
that makes the pricing a little bit difficult. Obviously, a big firm, they're going to need 50 accounts or more, where a solo practice might just need one.
Right.
But the one thing to be clear is we don't charge for staff use. So it's just so if you have 5 attorneys that use PACER and they all need automation for their PACER task, that's 5 accounts, right? Doesn't matter if you have 20 staff. No extra costs there. But yeah, so
that's cool. So you got it really can apply to anybody, any size firm who's doing federal practice. So that's pretty cool. Tell me about adoption rates. Have you noticed, has the sales cycle, has it been easy for you? Or have attorneys, your feedback, if they said this is we love the service, or the product, the service, it has been helpful, and we need more accounts, or more users. What has that been like? Is the adoption, have attorneys been open to it? Have they been open to it? Has the sales process been particularly difficult?
No, I would say it's so I used to sell, my last gig was selling software to school districts, and let me tell you, this is a lot easier. So basically, our sales process is pretty simple. Somebody shows interest, we give them a quick demo, using Zoom or Join Me or something.
Right.
And then they either see the value or they don't. If they see the value, then they usually have somebody on their litigation support team try it out, right? Your paralegal or assistant. And that'll be that 30-day window when they're doing the free trial. And then at that point, there's a value there for them or not, right? So it's actually pretty self-serve. I will say the most difficult part is really working your way up the chain at a big law firm.
Sure.
Because the paralegals are the ones that are going to use it the most, but they still have to get that buy-off from the COO or the partner at the top, and that can take months. So
right.
That's a big firm issue. That's just read the red tape of it. But
just like selling to a big corporation. I mean, it's just a big business, and it just takes time. The sales cycle is a little bit longer with those. Now, the solo practitioners, how's it been with them? Because they have different time constraints. I need to have enough time to do a demo and then make a decision as to, do I want to spend $25 a month, and is it valuable for me? And they've already got how many different services that they have to pay so much to. So how's that been selling to them? Are they quicker are they a quicker sale, or are they also difficult with the time constraints?
If it's a bankruptcy attorney, then that's a very quick sale at the smaller practice, because of the amount of case volume, and it's just, to them, it's like, oh, of course I want this, Whereas if it's different type of practice, and they patent, for example, you might just have one case you're working on for 6 months, right?
Okay.
And so some of those smaller firms, well, $25 a month, it's nice to have, but it's not necessary. So it's really, I think it boils down to the caseload.
Okay.
At the smaller level, because you really get the return on the investment of the monthly fee if it saves you a few hours a month, versus just having it every now and then. You only get a few filings a month in your case, right?
Okay.
So those sort of the latter would fall into our free use. We have nonprofits use it. With all the immigration stuff going on right now, there's actually some interest there. So for outside parties that aren't attorneys, they just want to follow a case, right? So you can do that with DocketBird. So it's actually, it's all over the map. And we kind of see it as like it provides legal access to everybody in an easier way. It's mobile friendly. You can do it all on your iPhone, your Android.
So you guys have an app as well? Is there an app?
It's just mobile web.
Mobile web, okay.
Just go to DocketBird.com on your phone, and it's the same experience. It's all designed for the your smartphone screen.
Excellent.
So yeah, we have a lot of use cases that wouldn't even really fit in a regular law firm, like insurance, for example. People dealing with insurance claims, that could be a progressive insurance or something, right? Might have nothing to do with a law firm. So it's kind of a pretty general tool, but a lot of use cases.
Excellent. And, I was finding something really interesting, or what I thought was very beneficial. I watched one of the demos on YouTube, and one of the cool aspects of what you do. So if somebody else, any other DocketBird user has purchased a document, because it's 10 cents to buy any document on PACER. It costs 10 cents. But if any other DocketBird user, is that within your membership, or any user whatsoever has purchased a document, then anyone else can have access to it?
Yeah, so basically, are you familiar with the recap and the free law movement? And I can kind of give you the quick version.
Give me a quick version of that, because no, I have not heard of free law. Probably the closest thing that I've heard to was co-counsel. Kimball Parker is the CEO of co-counsel, and he's doing a law mapping movement, sort of an access to justice movement as well. And he co-counsel one of our former guests, and they he talked, I think, a little bit about it, but please tell us about what the free law movement is.
Yeah, so I mean, if you want to really dig in, the Wikipedia wormhole, you can just Google free law later. But basically, the short answer is this idea that more free access to legal resources, right? Mm-hmm. So PACER, it stands for Public Access to Court Electronic Record. So really, it's public record, right? Mm-hmm. So I could go down to the courthouse and pay a clerk fee and get any document I want, right?
Right.
PACER's doing the same, but they charge 10 cents per page per document, and even for a search. So, you have a big case, it costs you $3 just to retrieve a document. Right. So they can add up. I talked to some big firms, they spend $20,000 a quarter on their PACER bill. Mm. Right? And there's actually a class action lawsuit right now against PACER in the courts. There was just a New York Times article about it recently. So there's this sort of backlash going on where, why are we charging people, nickel and diming people just so that they can get something that's already public record, right? Right. The law movement is just about using technology to make legal resources more accessible or even free, right?
Excellent.
So to tie that in with recap, and recap's a pretty cool thing. Basically, a few years ago, this team of engineers made this plugin for Google, for Chrome, that anytime you would download a PACER document, it would send it to this crowdsourced repository. And if you Google recap, it still runs and everything. So since then, a bunch of other sort of legal tech companies have jumped on the bandwagon, and it's this whole idea that we can crowdsource our documents and to make them free for people, right?
Right.
So it's going to help reduce your firm bill, but it's also going to open up, people that are, not in the legal industry can still get documents for free. So long answer there, but to go back to your point. So yeah, let's say you're a bankruptcy attorney and you just got involved in the case, and you look up the case on DocketBird, and there's another DocketBird attorney of record on that case getting the free filings. Well, then they would all be free for you as well. So any document that goes through DocketBird becomes immediately free for all of our users. So we crowdsource that way. And so it's kind of nice. So there's, as we grow, there'll be more and more overlap. Obviously there's, billions of records here. Right. So we got a long way to go to build our repository, but we've had a few hundred firms already sign up for our service. So that's very West Coast. We kind of started on our marketing campaign on the West Coast. So there already is overlap, especially in bankruptcy and patent, right, where you can get access to free filings because somebody else already did on the service.
Already did it. And just for my clarification, that doesn't mean somebody else in my membership or in my plan. It means any other user on.
Any other user. Yep.
Okay. Just want to make that clear. which is cool. So it basically, if somebody on using DocketBird has purchased this document previously, it then becomes a DocketBird document, and you guys keep it, and then it becomes accessible for any other user.
Yeah, and one thing we recently added, because it was demanded a lot by most of our firms, is just a distribution list for filings. This is such a simple programmatic thing. So basically how it works is, somebody at the firm right now, what'll happen, it'll be a new filing in the case that everybody in the firm's interested in what's going on. Somebody at the firm will have to circulate that email, attach the document, send it around. It's a kind of a needless task, right? So what we do is when that filing comes in, you have a distribution list set up on your DocketBird account, sends it to your client, sends it to the partners. So everybody's on the same page. You don't have to, it's automating the sharing of your documents, right?
So
and
that's your collaboration tool. That's your team collaboration tool. Excellent. So in terms of competitors, are there others out there doing what DocketBird does? I feel like one of our other guests did some similar things. Unicourt, I don't know if you're familiar with Unicourt.
Yeah,
but I don't know if they are direct competition or if you guys are looking at it from different perspectives and maybe attacking different angles of this system. But what type of competition is out there for DocketBird?
Yeah, there are a lot of services that do sort of one-off things that we do, but our feature set's a little different. It's geared more towards mobile access and sort of lightweight, it's just very intuitive and simple.
Okay.
But we do have competitors, and some of them are established, but normally, so for example, if you get like Bloomberg or Westlaw, you can set up a lot of case alerts and stuff using those programs as well,
right?
But they're very expensive and they're complex and they're kind of outdated, the interfaces. So those are the big dogs, right? That's sort of the law software. That's not our game. We're really about sort of just quick, simple access to PACER, automating the routine tasks that you spend time on. And that's really our focus. We're not doing deep analytics. We're not going to tell you how the judge is going to vote, right? We don't have our stuff. That's why I think it's important to tease the difference between automation for routine tasks and then automation in sort of the big picture, AI, machine learning. That's obviously a huge investment right now in legal tech. Billions of dollars are being poured into startups and stuff that can do stuff with AI. And that's a different kind of automation. We're in just automating sort of the manual labor.
Gotcha. And it still needs to be automated. It's not. It may not have that what I would call the sexy sound of machine learning or AI, right? That what everybody's really excited about. It does not mean that this is not a valuable service that solves problems. And I think some people get sort of taken away. I heard somebody else talking about it the other day, or I read something where somebody, it was Susskind, Richard Susskind had said, he's a author, a legal tech kind of futurist, and he posted, I think, on Twitter saying that most people who will say, or many people will say, well, can't we just AI that? And he said, and they don't know the difference between AI and a cookie. So there's this thing that, we think we can AI anything, and not everything needs it. It's not going to solve every problem. And there is a difference between AI and automation. There's some crossover, but they're different. And automation is simply, it's kind of that thing of the old school Outlook thing. Yes, I want this to be a recurring notification for me. Have it pop up, and I mean, very simple terms. Let's have this recurring, and it sounds like what you guys are solving is some of those recurring manual labor, and you're automating that to just make the workflow of the firm simpler and easier to accomplish, and more economic and more efficient.
Yeah. So basically, that's why it makes my job easy, because it's when I do a demo or give a pitch to a prospect, it's just very straightforward. It's like, hey, this will save you time and it'll reduce your PACER costs. Like, That's it. You're you're not.
Right.
So, I'm not a fan of cold calling. I think it's very alienating. And so that's not really our style. So we're really big on referrals, social media, and sort of marketing campaigns. When somebody signs up, we have an automation to help them, go through the tutorial to make sure that they know how to use the service. So it's really about the user seeing the value themselves, right?
Right.
That's why you really got to get versus the traditional. I think people think of sales and like, oh, trying to schmooze me or whatever. I don't need to do that with this product. It sells itself.
That's got to be nice for you from your sales experience, right? Because the having to schmooze them or having to convince them, it's a very difficult process, and then there's a lot more hand holding that has to go on through the life of that membership or that customer, because you've had to sell them on it. They didn't see the value initially, and you have to continue kind of holding the hands and doing the customer success and the customer relations in the long term. This is it sounds like in your business that you paint the picture for them, and then they get to decide, do I need it? Do I not need it?
Right. And exactly. That was a really good description of it. So rather than put the cart before the horse, the horse is the customer's on the horse riding off in the sunset. Right.
Right.
And that's great because it's, from a sales perspective, especially in a smaller company, a smaller startup, you don't want to waste time trying to convince somebody. It's not a good use of time.
It's not efficient at all.
When we're talking $25 a month, obviously if it's a big firm purchase, then that'd be worth investing.
Sure.
Weeks and weeks and weeks. But, if the user doesn't want it, then, it's just not a good practice to like try to talk them into it. Either they're going to see it or not. The only time I would make an exception is if they're not that tech savvy.
Right.
They just need a little sort of coaching on the product, like how to take advantage of it.
Right.
That's great because, having been in a support background, in tech for a long time, that's a thrill of, when somebody gets that aha moment, they figured out, oh, well, this is how it works. To me, that's great. So you always have those users that you kind of need a little extra hand holding, but for the most part, it's makes my job easy. I don't have to convince people because it's a clear utility, right? It's not like saying, hey, our service will get you better case outcomes because we have this analytics on how the judge decides. That's asking a lot. Whereas it's just like, hey, this will save you a few hours a month. Take it or leave it.
Right. Yeah, that's good. That's good. And what has been your experience? This is similar question that I like to ask almost with every guest is, what has been your experience as far as one of the things that many legal tech community members, I call it a community because we're all in it in little different areas, but how has your adoption been, or what has your experience been, not adoption, what has your experience been with the attorneys and how savvy they are? Have you run into a large number of them that just are not tech savvy, or do you notice that it's just you got to have them find the time so you can show it to them, you can demo it, and then they get it? Because a lot of it seems to be that the older generation of attorneys may not be tech savvy, and even a good portion of the younger attorneys are not tech savvy. What are your experiences?
Yeah, I mean, I think I just read an article that something like 15% of lawyers don't even have websites. Those are probably smaller practices, but that kind of tells us that there's still, the legal world is slow to adopt technology, right? That's a well-known fact.
Right.
And I talked to a lot of, very prestigious lawyers that have been doing this for 30 years, and they're tech savvy, but then you'll hop on the phone with somebody that's, 20 years younger, and they don't even know what an API is, right? So it's real, like you said, it's all over the map. But I will say that there is an up and coming sort of the litigation staff or movement towards adopting technology, going paperless, going mobile, and I think that cohort, they're probably in the mid 20s to mid 30s range right now. a lot of our users fall under that demographic, and
Okay.
they love technology. They they see the value right away because they grew up with technology, right?
That's right. So the
So yeah,
digital natives sounds like are the folks that you're getting a lot of interaction with, and they just kind of have to push it up the ladder to convince whoever the purchaser is, whoever the decision maker is, that this is going to streamline our workflow.
yeah. It's usually, you might have initial demo with a partner or, director of technology or whatever. Surprisingly, technology directors sometimes are less tech savvy than their than their actual paralegals. So you really have to get that buy off from sort of the digital natives, like you said, because that's all the partners really want to know is like, is this going to help my assistants or not? Like,
Right.
So they don't have the time. But the one thing I will say to answer your question, probably the biggest holdup that I've found in sales and legal tech is getting the demo or getting them on the phone. Lawyers are extremely strapped for time. Very hard to get a hold of.
Yep.
So you have to be prepared to do a lot of follow up, a lot of rescheduling.
Yep.
We automate our demo process. You can request a demo and it goes on the calendar and whatnot. A lot of those, we get a lot, dozens and dozens of those a week, but a lot of times they're just shifted around because the lawyers have a lot of last minute changes, to their workflow.
Sure.
They got more important priorities, right? So
that's right.
So I would say that was probably the biggest hurdle is just
getting them on the phone. Getting to do that demo. Interesting. Okay. That's good to know. So we're about 37 minutes in. We're going to be wrapping up soon. Derek, tell me anything we haven't asked that maybe listeners might need to know about DocketBird. Are there any questions we haven't, any items we haven't covered?
Well, I would say sort of the takeaway is obviously automation, which we talked about, saving time. So if you use PACER at all, you should check it out. Like I said, there's a free version. But we're really going into some interesting areas. We're going to start exploring things like text message alerts for attorneys to remind them about scheduled deadlines, stuff like that, calendar integration. And then something we just rolled out actually last week is a lead generation tool. So you basically, you can automate your lead generation process using DocketBird. And it's very simple. Basically, you just say, hey, tell me when there's a new case and automatically follow it. And then when the case proceeding gets to this certain stage, send me an email. So maybe you're an appellate attorney and you want to know as soon as the case goes to appeals, or maybe you're an insurance agent and you want to know when there's some disagreement, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's a new thing that we just rolled out. It's an interesting segment because now we're not just focusing on saving time, but sort of lead generation or getting your firm more quality leads, right?
Right.
So that's a different segment, but that is something pretty exciting we just rolled out, and the use cases applies to all sorts of offshoots of the legal world.
Yeah.
Of counsel and consulting agencies and whatnot. So,
and I'm assuming that even media companies would find use in using the service.
Yeah. So anybody can look up a federal case and follow it. So we do have journalists that signed up just for that purpose. And the nice thing about that is you automate the follow, whereas on PACER, you have to log in and check and,
right.
Kind of, if you're interested in a case, if it's a very important case, then anybody can follow it. And that's kind of a nice feature. Just, it's accessible for more people. So.
Excellent. And so, Derek, how would a listener or a viewer, replay guest, how would they get in touch with you and get in touch with DocketBird? Give us your website, if you want to give an email, you can give an email, or tell us where do they find you on social media.
Yeah. So we just kickstarted our social media campaign. We've been using LinkedIn a lot, but on Twitter. So the best way is actually just to go to our website, DocketBird.com. So there's just Docket and Bird.com.
That's DocketBird.com.
And from there, you can request a demo right away. Or you can, if you want, I'll personally be happy to give you a demo. Just email me at Derek. It's spelled a little differently. It's DAREK at DocketBird.com.
Excellent.
Yeah, and there's YouTube videos. There's you can just sign up. Like I said, it's a free trial. There's a tutorial. So that's the best way to really dig in, is just start tinkering with it.
Yeah, play around. That's how I find any guests who send us, hey, if you want to test it out first. That's the best way for me to find out, and then I'm able to do a little. Luckily, you had some demos on YouTube. I was able to watch those because we sort of planned this last minute, and so I didn't get a chance to do a demo before the interview. But I think I got some pretty good information off of the demos on YouTube. So I'm sure there's more that I don't know how old those are. Maybe there's more that you can tell folks in an actual demo. But, reach out to Derek, follow him on Twitter at DocketBird, or go to www.docketbird.com. Derek, thanks again. Thanks for reaching out. I'm glad we got a chance to do it this weekend. Just worked out perfect. And keep me in touch. Keep me in mind if there's something. Generally, what Ivan and I will tell our previous guests are, if you have something that you're posting, don't be afraid to tag us on Twitter and ask us to share it out, because we want to be evangelizing this area and talking about the startup lifestyle and what's happening in legal technology. So don't be afraid to stay in touch with us.
All right. Well, thanks for having me on, Nick. It's an exciting time to be in legal tech. A lot of change going on, and so yeah, I'll be tuning in. You got a subscriber now. So
excellent. I'm glad to hear it. And for our listeners, thank you very much for joining us for episode 26 of Legal Tech Live. I'm Nick Rishwain. My guest today was Derek Teller of DocketBird, and we hope to see you on the next episode. Have a great day, everybody.
Thanks, Nick.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.